In my previous life, my daughter traveled through time just to help me escape the fate of being abused by Matthew. With her help, I successfully married Liam, who had a crush on me. My daughter completely disappeared because she had changed history. After we got married, Liam treated me very well, afraid of making me sad. He never brought up the topic of having children. It wasn't until Liam was successfully rated as a professor and publicly announced at the thank you banquet that he had a 25-year-old son with his first love. It turned out that he had been in touch with his first love all these years and used our joint property to buy a car and a house for his illegitimate son. I was so angry that I fainted, and not long after, I died. However, Liam quickly married his first love, and they had a happy family reunion. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the night before I married Liam. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. My daughter leaned against me, her voice trembling slightly. You're going to register for marriage tomorrow. Go to bed early. I was stunned for a long time. It was only when my daughter's hand touched my forehead that I realized I had been reborn. She muttered worriedly to herself. It can't be. She doesn't have a fever. Why is she looking so dazed? Seeing my daughter again, I couldn't help but have tears in my eyes. On the verge of death in my previous life, I saw memories that I had never seen before. Those were the things that happened before my daughter traveled through time. After I married Matthew, he revealed his true nature. He beat me and forced me to ask for money from my family again and again. In those days, domestic violence wasn't taken seriously by people. I could only endure it and take care of my daughter all by myself. My daughter was very sensible, knowing that she had no one to rely on since she was a child. She never caused me any trouble. Even when she was in primary school, she learned to take care of herself. She ate cold food alone, slept alone, and when she heard me arguing with Matthew, she would hide under the covers and cry secretly. Thinking of this, my heart ached. If the price of my happiness was to make my daughter disappear, I would rather suffer for a lifetime. I'm not getting married. Liam already has someone else in his heart. My daughter Nina was a bit anxious. How is that possible? He said he has been having a crush on you. He even proposed to you in front of so many people a few days ago. How can you say such things? I looked at my daughter without saying a word, calculating according to the age of Liam's son in my previous life. At this time, Liam had already been having an affair with Susan without proper introduction. Now it was still the 1980s. If such a thing happened, both of them would be stigmatized for the rest of their lives. I gently patted my daughter's hand. Let's not cancel the marriage for now. Let's postpone it for a few days. When he learned that I wanted to postpone the marriage registration for a few days, Liam was a bit unhappy. Riva, didn't we agree on today? You're not regretting it, are you? I know I'm just a poor student, and your father is a professor. I owe you. If you have any dissatisfaction, just tell me. Why do you want to break off the engagement? His voice was very loud. As soon as he said this, the villagers surrounded us. The news that we were going to get married had already spread throughout the village. Several women started gossiping. Riva's family is very powerful, but our Liam is not bad either. He's a teacher in the village now, and maybe he can be transferred to a high school in the county town in a couple of years. Riva, you can't just look at the present. Liam is a very capable person, and life will be prosperous in a few years. They chattered on and on, as if it would be a great loss for me if I didn't marry Liam. I knew why Liam was in a hurry. In a week, the selection of excellent teachers would be held. My father was here for the inspection and would return to the provincial capital next month. If we got married, my father wouldn't have the heart to let me stay in the countryside and would definitely find a way to transfer Liam there as well. Liam was trying to force me to agree. I lowered my head, looking bashful. Liam, I know you're eager to marry me, but I'm not ready yet. Do you have to say it in front of the whole village? It's so embarrassing. Liam's expression softened a bit. This is my first time getting married too. What's there to be shy about? Riva, let's go and register now. I'll buy you the things we're short of gradually in the future. After saying that, he directly grabbed my wrist and led me towards the office. My daughter followed behind, wearing a faint smile on her face. She was also eager for me to marry Liam, because in a few days, Matthew would come to the village, and she was afraid that I would fall in love with Matthew at first sight. Halfway there, suddenly Bob from the same village blocked our way. He leaned close to Liam and said a few words, and the two of them kept looking at a woman in the distance. Liam spoke in a low voice, but I still heard him. Tell her not to make a fuss for now. A future career is more important than love. I will never touch Riva in my life. My heart still belongs to her. Bob shook his head. Sister Susan said she hasn't had her period this month. She's probably pregnant. Liam, don't you plan to take responsibility for her? Liam glanced at my daughter and me, seeing that there was no abnormal expression on our faces. He said, in that case, you two should get married temporarily. I'll support you when I'm transferred to the city. My daughter didn't hear their conversation. She took my hand. Her eyes filled with reluctance. I'll leave once you get married. I hope you'll be happy in this life. I reached out and tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. What kind of determination to sacrifice herself did my daughter have at this moment? I will be happy in this life. After saying that, I shouted at Liam, I have a stomachache. Since you have something to do, let's get married in a couple of days. Before Liam could answer, I pulled my daughter and ran home. I will never forget the taste of being betrayed. In this life, I want Liam to be completely disgraced. In the following days, I walked around the village from morning till night. Whenever I saw someone, I would tell them that I was going to marry Liam and give them a handful of candies. The villagers spread the word that I was completely controlled by Liam and was deeply in love with him. My daughter was a bit worried and told me not to be so showy. She was still a bit dissatisfied with this marriage. Liam's family was very poor. They barely managed to get together the 3 big items. The bicycle and the sewing machine were old ones at home, and they only bought a watch, which had been worn by someone else for 2 years. My father was also a bit dissatisfied, but seeing how much I liked Liam, he finally didn't say anything. Liam secretly took Susan to the county hospital for a checkup. After confirming the pregnancy, Susan had a smile on her face from morning till night, especially when she met me in the village. She was very arrogant. I pretended not to see her and also gave her a handful of wedding candies. Susan was unhappy. She flipped her hand, and the candies fell into the soil. I don't like sweet things. I just didn't hold them firmly just now. I wasn't angry. My eyes lingered on her belly for a moment. Susan, have you been eating a lot recently? I think you've gained a lot of weight. You even have a small belly. She immediately tugged at the hem of her clothes, her face turning pale. You're talking nonsense. Where have I gained weight? Many villagers in the village were basking in the sun. Hearing our conversation, they also sized up Susan. She was only 2 months pregnant, so naturally, her belly wouldn't show yet. But because of her guilty conscience, Susan covered her belly with one hand, her face turning red, and gave me a fierce glare. Liam came over carrying a basket of wild vegetables and stood between us. Riva, these are fresh vegetables just picked from the field. Take them back for our father to eat. He wiped his hands and looked at me hopefully. It's been 4 or 5 days already. It's time to go and register. Right. I didn't take the vegetables and put the wedding candies in my pocket. Weren't you busy with something? Aunt Zheng said she saw you and Susan going to the county hospital the day before yesterday. What's wrong? Are you sick? Why didn't you tell me? Liam swallowed nervously. Well, we met on the road. Susan wasn't feeling well, so I accompanied her there. Suddenly, he grabbed my hand and said eagerly, Riva, don't misunderstand. I was just doing a good deed. There's nothing between us. Susan couldn't hold her head up and went home covering her belly. That afternoon, rumors started spreading in the village that Liam and Susan were in love and that I had become the third party interfering in their relationship. My daughter was so angry that she wanted to go out and argue with them. What are they talking about? They're smearing you. What will you do in the future? I held her back. I wasn't affected by it. Instead, I hoped the rumors would spread even more. Because I was the one who spread the rumors. There's no such thing as an airtight wall. Once others have a hint of discovery, the truth won't be able to be hidden. Sure enough, when I went out as usual to distribute a pack of wedding candies, an aunt stopped me and told me to stop distributing them. Riva, what's going on between you and Liam? I just came back from the field and saw Susan crying in Liam's arms. If they have a deep relationship, you'd better not get involved. I widened my eyes, my lips trembling. Auntie, what are you saying? Liam said he wants to marry me himself. Every time he asks me to go and register. You were all there. Who said this? Does Liam really have something with Susan? Seeing me heartbroken, The surrounding villagers came up to comfort me. The aunt comforted me. Riva, maybe I was wrong. Don't be sad. Let's go and take a look. If Liam really betrayed you, we'll get justice for you. I cried pitifully, and the surrounding villagers were filled with indignation, wishing they could tear Liam apart. When we reached Liam's house following the direction pointed by the aunt, there were already over 100 people behind me, achieving the effect I wanted. I wiped away my tears and reached out to push the door. Before my hand touched the door frame, Liam opened the door from the inside. Seeing the large crowd behind me, he was stunned. Riva, what are you all doing? I was just sweeping the yard. What happened? I started crying before I could speak. Auntie said she saw you and Susan. You too. If you have feelings for each other, why did you come? Liam's face turned pale. I didn't. Don't talk nonsense. A voice in the crowd said, I think Susan is pregnant. The other day, she dropped a piece of paper, which looked like a medical examination report from the county hospital. Susan pushed through the crowd and came out, looking very unhappy. Who's spreading rumors? I'm still an innocent girl. No matter what. You can't spread rumors about me. She sniffled and changed the subject. But yesterday afternoon, when I passed by the rice paddy at the entrance of the village, I seemed to hear Riva's voice. She described it in great detail. There seemed to be a man too. I couldn't see clearly. He was wearing gray cloth shoes and was very tall. Could it be that she's pregnant and is afraid of being discovered by Liam? So she's deliberately smearing us. Mary agreed with her. That's right. I saw it too yesterday. But it was dark, and I couldn't see clearly who it was. Susan turned around, her eyes shining brightly. Riva, who is that man? If you tell the truth, the villagers will just gossip a bit. This is a matter of personal reputation. If you mess around casually, you'll be embarrassing the whole village. My expression didn't waver. You're spreading rumors about me. There's no other man. And I'm not messing around. You need to have evidence when you talk. Do you have any evidence? Susan blinked twice, her eyes filled with tears. Riva, I know you must feel very ashamed for doing such a thing. But you shouldn't have smeared me and Liam. We're innocent and have never done such a thing. How much do you hate me to describe me as such a woman? As soon as she started crying, everyone's thoughts changed. Several aunts pulled her and comforted her, telling her not to be sad. Liam then spoke up righteously for himself. Riva, I really didn't expect you to betray me like this. At first, I only had you in my heart. You know my family is very poor, and I've given you everything I can. I wondered why you've been dragging your feet about marrying me these days. It turns out you have someone else outside. Who is that person? How could you abandon me for him? He took a deep breath and stepped forward. You just need to tell me the truth, and I won't blame you. Our marriage has been almost settled, and I don't want to give up on you. Let's go and register now. I will never abandon you in my life. Everyone praised Liam for being a good man. Liam sighed and turned his gaze to me. I crossed my arms. So he wanted to smear me, make it impossible for me to get married, and then mercifully marry me. I said that when you speak, you need to have evidence. I'm not having an affair. Then who was the person I saw yesterday? Mary stood up for Liam. Bob came out and tried to comfort Liam, telling him not to be sad. Mary pointed at Bob and let out a cry of surprise. Bob, it's you. Gray cloth shoes, white pants, tall and strong. The person who was with Riva yesterday was you. You're that other man. Bob stiffened. He turned around and answered with his neck stuck out. Don't talk nonsense. His reaction made the villagers even more convinced that it was him. They pointed at me one after another, calling me immoral. Bob stood in front of me. Riva seduced me. I was out of my mind at that time. Yesterday, she came to me and said she was pregnant and asked me for money to have an abortion. How could I have that kind of money at home? I gave her a good scolding. I didn't expect that. In order to embezzle the dowry Liam gave her, she would smear Susan. It seemed that Liam was conspiring against me with others. Riva, I won't hold it against you. Really. Let's go and register now. Okay. Let's put this matter behind us. Who asked me to really like you? Liam grabbed my wrist, his face full of affection, and forced out a few tears with a pained expression. Riva, there aren't many good men like Liam. Just marry him. You're no longer innocent, and no one will want you in the future. The villagers chimed in, and a large group of people herded us towards the township government office. I tried to shake off Liam's hand, but he held on even tighter, not giving me a chance to break free. Stop making a fuss. The person who was with Riva yesterday was me, her husband, Matthew. A voice interrupted, and everyone stopped, confused by the scene in front of them. Liam turned around angrily and was punched by Matthew. Matthew took out a marriage certificate from his pocket and showed it to everyone. Yesterday afternoon, Wan Qing and I went to the county to register. We were seen on our way back, with the official seal. It can't be fake. Liam looked at us in disbelief. What do you mean, Riva? Didn't you promise to marry me? I've already given the betrothal gifts. Why did you marry this other man? Mary gave me a disdainful look. Yeah, even if you're married, you can't mess around. You must have gotten pregnant and then got married. Right. I turned around with a smile and pulled out the old Chinese medicine doctor, Grandpa Li, who was watching the commotion. He had been treating patients in the village for decades, and everyone trusted him. Grandpa Li, can you feel my pulse and see if I'm really pregnant? Grandpa Li was kind. After feeling my pulse, he shook his head. Wan Qing isn't pregnant. I took 2 steps forward and pulled Susan over. Please feel her pulse too. Susan struggled violently. Riva, you're crazy. It's enough to prove your own innocence. What are you dragging me for? Liam also came forward to stop me. It has nothing to do with Susan. But it was too late. The gossip-loving Grandpa Li had already grabbed Susan's arm from the other side. This one is pregnant. About 2 months or so. In an instant, everyone's eyes were focused on the two of them. The aunt clicked her tongue a few times. I knew my eyes weren't that bad. No wonder you two were hugging each other. So you already have a child. Liam tightly protected Susan behind him. Stop looking. Stop looking. My daughter rushed over when she heard the news. The villagers were already in an uproar, and a group of people surrounded Liam and Susan, pointing at them and talking about them. I stood outside the crowd, with Matthew standing silently behind me. When my daughter saw Matthew, her whole body stiffened for a moment. That was the fear ingrained in her bones. I quickly stood between the two of them and asked her why she came. My daughter glanced at Liam and gritted her teeth. This Liam turned out to be a heartless man. He pretended so well that he even deceived me. I comforted her. It's okay. We didn't get married. Right. Fortunately, we found out in advance. She shook her head and looked at Matthew with fear. Is this person the helper you found? You didn't really marry him, did you? I protected her in my arms and replied, no. I saw him in the village a few days ago. He looks quite good-looking. She became anxious. Didn't I say that you can't judge a person by their appearance when looking for a partner? Why did you get married without discussing it with me? Do you know that some people may look good on the outside, but they are rotten to the core on the inside? Matthew looked over with a puzzled expression. What's with the way this girl talks? Why is she swearing? My daughter trembled in my arms. She looked at me with pleading eyes. Just consider it as a play you put on to get rid of Liam. Please, go and get a divorce tomorrow. Okay. I stroked her head. There's no such thing as getting a divorce just one day after getting married. I think this Matthew looks quite nice. I'm sure I can have a beautiful daughter. My daughter burst into tears and hugged me tightly. She developed a high fever when we got back at night and kept talking nonsense. She was willing to sacrifice herself to prevent me from marrying Matthew, carrying a heavy burden in her heart. She didn't succeed in the end, and naturally, she couldn't bear the blow. I stayed by her side. The most frequent sentence she said was, Mom, don't marry him. My heart ached, and I couldn't help but shed tears. After a long night, my daughter finally got rid of the fever. The first thing she asked me when she woke up was, can't you really get a divorce from Matthew? Looking at her somewhat desperate gaze, I felt a bit reluctant. Marriage is a big deal. If Matthew treats me badly in the future, I will get a divorce from him. My daughter was silent for a long time. Seeing that she couldn't change my mind, she finally didn't say anything. When she had just recovered from her serious illness, there was a village meeting to criticize Liam and Susan. Because of their bad conduct, the village high school dismissed Liam. He no longer had the chance to go to the high school in the county, and maybe he would never be rated as a professor in his life. Premarital pregnancy was a very serious issue. Susan couldn't hold her head up in the village all day long. Soon, she couldn't stand the gossip and insisted that Liam take her to the town and never come back. I had already returned Liam's betrothal gifts a long time ago. However, even if all those things were sold, they couldn't support the two of them living in the town. Now, Liam had lost his job, and the bad things about him had spread throughout the county. The high schools in the county avoided him like the plague. According to the aunt, every time she passed by the entrance of the village, she could hear the two of them arguing, as if they were going to tear the roof off. Unable to withstand the gossip, Liam married Susan, but not many people went to their wedding. They had played the villagers for fools before, so it could be considered their retribution. After getting my revenge, I finally felt a little relieved. However, my daughter was unhappy all day long. In my previous life, she disappeared after I married Liam. In this life, she was still here. I couldn't quite figure out how she could return to her own time and space. Just thinking that because of my inaction, my daughter didn't have a happy childhood made my heart ache. The pain of 2 lifetimes made me realize that only when I was strong could I not be bullied by others. Since I was reborn, I had been studying hard and reading books with my father every day. He was very happy and asked me if I had any interested major and wanted to send me to university. He didn't blame me for getting married in a hurry. He just said that I was thoughtless in doing things and didn't even inform my family. In the life when I married Matthew, my parents were in poor health and passed away one after another not long after I gave birth to my daughter. Matthew squandered the inheritance I got. Without the support of my family, I lived an even harder life. With a low education level, I could only work in a clothing store in the county town. My daughter and I couldn't even have enough to eat. When Matthew was drunk, he would beat me even more severely and often snatched the money I earned. Thinking of these, I couldn't help but shake my head. In this life, I will study as hard as I can and never give anyone a chance to bully me again. My daughter strongly supported me in continuing my studies and talked to me about the benefits of studying. Once you have knowledge in your head, you'll know how to fight back against others reasonably. Besides, even if you have a child in the future, when you help with their homework, you won't be at a loss and worry anxiously, not even being able to sleep well at night. I was stunned for a moment. It turned out that my daughter had seen my inferiority complex. In the end, I decided to follow my father to the provincial capital to study design. In the next few decades, the fashion industry would develop rapidly. As someone who had experienced it before, I had also witnessed the development trend of the entire fashion circle. I still decided to start my own business after finishing my studies and try my best to give my daughter a complete and happy childhood. Matthew didn't show any abnormalities for the time being. Although he didn't care for me as much as Liam did back then, he could be considered a good man. My daughter still didn't give up and followed me around all day, telling me cases of domestic violence. Some men treat you extremely well before getting married and before you have a child. But once you give birth, they think you've completed your task and treat you like a servant. I put down the book in my hand and agreed with her. You're right. But Matthew seems normal for now. If he really treats me badly, after I give birth to the child, I'll just get a divorce. My daughter shook her head. What if he doesn't agree to the divorce? What will you do then? I was stunned for a moment and realized that I really hadn't thought about this issue much. Actually, I hated Matthew to the core in my heart. But in order to give birth to my daughter, I endured it for a long time and got along with him normally. With such a time bomb that could explode at any moment by my side, I couldn't even sleep peacefully. Don't worry, I'll find a way. Since I could get rid of Liam, what's a Matthew to me? My daughter gritted her teeth and suddenly confessed to me. I actually traveled here from 20 years later. After you married Matthew, he would abuse you, and you would have a very unhappy life. And I am your daughter. At first, I lied to you when I said I was the daughter of you and Liam. I was afraid that you would still marry Matthew even if you knew the truth. She choked up, and tears streamed down her face. Don't be with him anymore. I don't want you to have an unhappy second half of your life. My eyes turned red, and I gently took her hand. But I'm already pregnant. You said you're my daughter, so you're in my belly right now. She was stunned for a moment, and then burst into tears. Then what will you do after you give birth to the child? I don't want to see you compromising for my sake. I shook my head helplessly. There will always be a way out. Now that I've learned some knowledge and I'm going to start my own business in the future, will the road still be difficult? My daughter buried her head in my arms and gently placed one hand on my belly. It's kind of amazing. The little me is right there, separated from me by a layer of stomach. I stroked her head. and she stopped crying and smiled. Unfortunately, we both overestimated Matthew's patience. When I was almost due, he suddenly started staying out late and only came back in the middle of the night, reeking of alcohol. Since I was still busy with school matters, I didn't pay attention to it. But after he had been like this for half a month, as if he thought I was easy to bully, he suddenly exploded. I was lying together with my daughter, imagining our future life. During this period, I had already started setting up the factory, and the first batch of clothes was about to go into production. I hoped for a good profit. Matthew kicked the door open and turned on the light. My daughter and I were so startled that we were shocked. I was quite angry and shouted at Matthew, "What are you doing in the middle of the night?" He pointed at my daughter, his eyes wide open as if he was going to eat her. "Don't you know the situation of our family? A friend has been living in our house for half a year, eating and drinking our stuff. I don't want to support her anymore. Get out of here right now." After saying that, he reached out and pulled my daughter up. The force was so great that my daughter didn't react in time, and the back of her head hit the corner of the bed. I slapped him and protected my daughter behind me. In order to give my daughter a place to stay, I told others that she was my friend and was staying with me. But Matthew was wrong about one thing. This house was allocated by my father's unit, and the money for our daily food, drink, and expenses was also given by my father. Matthew had a job, but he had never given me a single penny. "What are you doing? Using violence. When did we ever eat and use your stuff? Get it straight. Everything you have now was given to you by my father." Since I had just graduated from school and didn't have much money, my father felt guilty and often stuffed money to me. Even Matthew's job was found by him. Matthew was drunk and started acting up. He grabbed my hair and dragged me towards the wall. "You bitch. What's so great about you? You're already married to me. What's wrong with your father giving more money?" My daughter somehow had so much strength that she rescued me from Matthew's grasp. Her calves were still trembling, but she protected me behind her like a mother hen. "I won't let you hit her. What right do you, an outsider, have to speak?" Matthew also shouted. I was so angry that I was breathing heavily. I felt all the blood in my body rushing to my head. My daughter didn't back down at all. Instead, she took a few steps towards Matthew. "What? Are you going to hit me? Go ahead and hit me. I'm living in the Lin family's house. What right do you have to talk about me? What's the difference between you and me?" I reached out to pull her back. "Don't provoke him." But it was too late. Matthew casually picked up a vase and hit my daughter on the head with it. I let out a scream, which attracted the neighbors upstairs and downstairs. The neighbors hurriedly called the police. Matthew, however, fell to the ground drunk and unconscious. Blood flowed down my daughter's forehead. I held her in my arms, almost scared to death. "He's drunk and not in his right mind. Why did you? Are you stupid?" My daughter shook her head and smiled at me. "I've been trying to find a way to help you get a divorce these days. I know that once you give birth to the baby, what awaits you is endless pain. Matthew won't agree to a divorce, or you wouldn't have been so sad back then. He's a vicious vampire who won't stop until he squeezes out all the value of your use." Tears streamed down my face. "But you can't risk your life like this. What if he doesn't know his own strength and hurts you badly?" Her gaze lingered on my belly for a moment. "When I traveled here, I didn't expect to go back alive. The police soon arrived and took my daughter to have her injuries examined. My belly suddenly started to ache, and the intense pain almost made me pass out. My daughter, lying on the stretcher, suddenly grabbed the policeman's hand. Hurry, hurry. She's about to give birth. Send her to the hospital first." I leaned against the wall and gritted my teeth. "Nina, you go first. I can hold on." My daughter pursed her lips. The policeman immediately helped me onto the ambulance, saying that the ambulance was spacious enough and they could send both of us together. The ambulance sped on the road. My daughter kept staring at me with concern, afraid that something would happen to me. But she seemed to have forgotten that her head was still bleeding. In the moment when I was about to lose consciousness, I heard my daughter exclaim, "No, from the beginning to the end, I never told you my name was Nina." I was so angry with Matthew and had been beaten by him that I almost had a difficult labor because of the anger. After going through countless hardships, the baby finally came into the world with a cry. I looked at the baby with a red face and was filled with love in my heart. But when I asked the doctors if they had seen my daughter, they all shook their heads and said they hadn't seen a girl in her 20s. I looked blankly at the people coming and going, and my heart sank. When I used to talk about everything with her, she told me that her birthday was May 19th. I grabbed the nurse and asked her, "What's the date today?" The nurse replied, "It's April 30th. April 30th. Then where is my daughter? Isn't the child I gave birth to Nina?" I couldn't hold on and fainted for a while. When I woke up, my parents were standing by the hospital bed, gently teasing the little baby. "Father, do you remember that friend who lived in my house before?" My father nodded. "Yes. I met her before I came here. She said she was going home and asked me to take good care of you." "That's nonsense. Of course I'll take care of my daughter." My heart sank. "Then how are her injuries?" "Injured." I didn't hear her say anything about it. My father was busy looking at his granddaughter and replied without raising his head. "Have you named the baby yet?" he asked me. I trembled and didn't dare to answer, remembering that my daughter had a birthmark on her wrist. I struggled to open the little baby's hand. It was clean and there was nothing on it. She wasn't Nina. No. I was already in a trance. "Then I'll name her. Let's call her Nina. What do you think?" My father was still cheerful. I turned around, and tears welled up in my eyes. "Okay, let's call her Nina. My daughter will be called Nina." When I recovered and was discharged from the hospital, Matthew was still in the police station. He was detained for a while because he had hurt someone, and the police said he had caused trouble on purpose. I went back home, holding the little baby in my arms, and an idea flashed through my mind. But with Matthew like this, it might be difficult to get a divorce. The little Nina kicked her legs and stretched out her little hand. A corner of a piece of paper under the pillow was revealed. I opened it and it was a letter my daughter left for me. "Mom, didn't I say that I was trying to find a way to help you get a divorce? I've found the way. There's something I didn't tell you. Matthew didn't tell you either. In fact, he has bipolar disorder, which is why he can't control himself when he hits people. Later, because of drinking, he can't control himself even more. I found this in his diary. I've secretly locked the diary in the cabinet. Remember to keep it safe. He has this illness himself and didn't tell you before getting married. You can sue him in court and get a divorce from him. If you can read this letter, it means I've already disappeared. But this time it's not really disappearing. I should have returned to my own world." "Mom, you recognized me a long time ago, didn't you? I never told you my name was Nina." "Mom, even if the child you gave birth to isn't me, don't be sad. The world is amazing. Maybe the world I came to is just a parallel world. But it doesn't matter. No matter which world's mom you are, I hope you'll be happy. You were so hardworking for me before, so I'm willing to go through fire and water for you this time. Also, Mom, thank you for being willing to give birth to me again even though you knew how difficult the days ahead would be." Following the clues in the letter, I successfully found Matthew's diagnosis certificate in the cabinet. I went to the police station and questioned him in front of the police why he didn't tell me the truth. Matthew looked fearless. "Getting married was something we both agreed to. Why should I tell you? I put the diary on the table. So you knew it all along and deliberately hid it from me." He looked at me like I was a fool. "Can't you understand what I'm saying? Didn't I make myself clear?" I turned around and said thank you to the police. Liam was trying to force me to agree. Matthew, however, burst into laughter. "Divorce? You're dreaming. You've already given birth to the child, and you still want a divorce. I'm telling you, I'll pester you for the rest of my life. You can't get rid of me." I left the police station and went straight to a law firm, entrusting them to handle my divorce case. The upsurge of the times had already started. Standing at the forefront of the trend, I felt for the first time that making money was so easy. The first batch of clothes I made was a great success. The sales were quite good, and I earned a lot of money. I was already preparing to open another factory, because there was sufficient evidence. My divorce case with Matthew went smoothly. When the judge made the final decision and announced the divorce judgment, I let out a sigh of relief. I felt that the air in the court was filled with a pleasant fragrance. Matthew didn't have the financial ability, and since my daughter was very attached to me, the court awarded her custody to me. After the divorce, without the support of my family, Matthew quickly ended up on the streets, hanging out with beggars all day long and always getting into fights. His life was truly ruined, and my factory kept growing. 5 years later, I had become a somewhat famous entrepreneur. I carried a bag and went to pick up Nina from school. But she ran out crying and threw herself into my arms. Woohoo! Mom! I was bullied and got hurt. The kindergarten teacher followed out and said apologetically, I'm sorry, Nina's mom. I didn't keep a close enough eye. And the child fell. It was just some pushing and shoving among the children. And it wasn't on purpose. She got a wound on her hand. And we're just afraid it might leave a scar. I took Nina's hand and looked at it. There was a deep wound on her wrist. Who pushed you? I frowned and asked instinctively. It was Martin. He said I'm a wild child with no one to care for me. Woohoo! Nina pouted. The teacher had already given some simple treatment. Her wound wasn't bleeding anymore. But this child was quite brave. Despite the serious injury, she didn't cry because of the pain. Instead, she was full of grievances towards me. Nina's mom. Don't worry. We've already told Song's parents. They've made Song apologize and promised to cover the medical expenses. I nodded and carried Nina to the hospital to have the wound dressed. Halfway there, Nina looked up at me and said, Mom, actually, I'm not sad about what he said. I have you. And you're very good to me. Grandpa and Grandma are also very good to me. Nina isn't a wild child with no one to care for me. I couldn't help but laugh. Of course, you're the treasure of our family. Passing by a row of peach blossom trees, an idea suddenly flashed through my mind. I took Nina's hand and carefully examined the wound again. The scar wasn't long. It was just above the wrist. And it was exactly the same as the birthmark on the wrist of the Nina I had seen before. Tears streamed down my face again. Nina looked up and comforted me. Mom, I don't hurt anymore. I nodded vigorously. Mom knows.